Welcome back to another episode of With the Chiefs. This is episode 17 and the final episode in the How to Run Any Distance series. This week we've got on Lachlan Raper, who is going to talk about how to run an 800 and middle distance running. Me and Lachie used to train together a while ago with Ben Liddy's Central Performance Squad. We both kind of joined the squad at a similar time. I was trying to break 2 minutes in the 800, and I think Lachie was not too far ahead of me. I think it was maybe just under 2 minutes at the time. But within that season, Lachie went on to be, I think, to break 150, and I was still battling away trying to break 2 minutes. So we joined the squad at a similar level, and Lachie quickly got away from me. But I think we had a few good sessions training together and some great times training with the squad. Since joining the squad, Lockie's just gone strength to strength and has ended up running for Australia in the under-20 in under-20 World Championship. So he's pretty accredited, and his PBs for middle distance, he's got a 200 PB of 22 seconds, 97, 400 meter PB, 48, 75, a 800 meter PB of 147.97, a 1 mile PB of 408, 3K PB of 834. So he's pretty legit and pretty handy over the longer stuff as well. I think that 834 is pretty impressive. But yeah, welcome to the show, Lachie.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I was in what we were saying before. I thought I'd done 832, so no, but 834 is.
Oh, 832, yeah,
correct,
shit.
I think. No, yeah. So I was ahead of where I really am. But no, thank you for having me on. I'm very humbled to be on a podcast. It's my first podcast, so yeah, I'm very honoured.
Oh, no.
Well, we're happy to have you, man. Yeah, thanks for joining.
Very deserving to be on the podcast. Usually each week we've just been kind of running through what we've been doing this week in training. So I don't know, how's this week kind of played out for you in terms of training?
Yeah, well, so I've had this weird injury for like the last 3 months almost. So my training has been pretty reduced just on a bike. And so I think it's just and I'm slowly now, like within the last week, starting to get back into running. So it's just that weird limbo phase where you're like still sort of injured, still coming back, you're super unfit. And so, it is definitely a weird phase of my training period, but hopefully, touch wood, I'll be back doing sessions with the squad again very soon. So, I'm very much itching to get back into normal training.
Yeah, but, definitely.
Yeah.
What's the injury? What happened?
Well, yes, we don't really know. It's been a super weird injury. I just I think popped up a few weeks before Adelaide Invitational, and it's just this pain in my arch. And the MRI that I got was there wasn't much happening. It was like there was a bit of cuboid stress, but basically the pain is starts from my arch and then just radiates out through my foot. So it's pretty globalized pain in my foot. So it's just really weird and hasn't really gone away, but starting to get back into running reasonably symptom free. You're not sure how much of it is in your head, especially for something where you don't know what's really happening. So, starting to get back into it. It was a very frustrating injury, I guess. But anyway.
Yeah, it sort of came out of nowhere by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it really did. I had like just a general tightness, and then was going for a run with my sister and then Tommy Davies as well, who I train with, and just flared up in the run, and then haven't really been able to do another run since. So, I think you just have to, like, in those times you kind of have to just realign your goals a little bit with running, and just focus on
Mm.
stuff outside of running, which is weird for me because I haven't really done too much of that in the last few years, really. So
Mm.
yeah, definitely a weird period of my running career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
geez.
yeah.
And so is your training on the bike, is that kind of a reflection of what you were doing running wise, like 2 sessions a week
Yeah,
and just kind of ride
definitely.
around generally? Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just got a
What?
so I've just got like a stationary bike at home, and all the sessions are like I still do the main sessions on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and they sort of mirror what I
Mm,
would be doing on like a track. So for today,
Mm.
I just had like 5 minute reps on the bike, and you sort of I find that's really easy to
geez.
mimic your what sort of training you'll be doing and the effort you'll be doing while running.
Mm,
And yeah, and then my off days are still very similar to what I would be doing as off days normally. So like a Sunday is like a long run for me. I would do 75 minutes running, and then on the
Yeah.
bike it's about similar sort of time. So
mm,
yeah, still trying to mimic training, and it's mainly just I think the purpose for me, the bike stuff is just to keep me sane, and like
Mm.
I
yeah,
just couldn't not do any training. I think I'd just go a bit
definitely.
crazy. So
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Do you like the? What do you think of the bike in general?
Um, I like. I think it's quite. It's all right. I hate to be on the bike. I much prefer to be running.
Mm.
But I think it's definitely a very good. Um, for me at least, I find it's really good at replicating sort of the effort that you get out. Like because I'm a horrible swimmer, so I
Mm,
can't really replicate effort like running sort of effort in a pool.
Mm.
Um, so I find that it's probably the best way of staying reasonably fit while injured. But it's yeah, mainly
Yeah.
I don't think I've maintained that much fitness. Mainly just stayed sane.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's good. Good. You're obviously staying active, and sure you'll be back. You'll be back soon. Soon enough.
yeah,
What
that's the
about you,
plan.
Dom?
yeah, I think it's tough being injured, like just mentally, like your whole
Mm.
identity kind of gets shaken up a bit because you just yeah tie so much to running. But
Yeah.
yeah, my week's been not too bad. Kind of yeah, still coming back from Buffalo and Canberra marathon. I think it probably wasn't the smartest move doing a marathon a week after I'd done a marathon. um, so
that's
yeah,
that's very dumb.
it's been yeah.
Oh, and you also went out the night before the marathon as well.
Yeah. But,
That's good.
yeah, so I think I don't know. The focus has kind of shifted a bit. It's more trying to get in more climbing and elevation and stuff because I got this 100-mile run coming up, and it's got 7,000 meters of elevation in it. So it's like something different that I haven't really done before. Buffalo was definitely a wake up call as to like I'm just completely a fish out of water in this new sort of trail running scene.
Mm.
And there's a lot to improve on. So, yeah, just trying to practice running up hills and hiking up hills and getting in all that elevation. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so that's kind of what my week's been doing. But also, we've got Sydney 10 coming up next week. So, I did a session today, which was a bit more 10K specific. And yeah, geez, I struggled. I think I haven't done anything 10K specific in a long time, and it really showed. But I don't know. We'll see what happens on next Sunday. I think the goal will be just to beat Smitty. So hopefully we won't have another Fingal Bay on our
Mate, you're
hands.
gonna tick that box off. If I even get close, I'm in for a huge PB.
But what about you, Smitty? How's training going?
Yeah, good. Another week of pretty similar activity. Um, did 2 sessions, which are similar to what I was doing the week before in the sense that it's just getting a little bit of speed in. So I think on Tuesday I've been doing 6 by 1 minute 45, like and hard with 3 minute walk. So and on Thursday, same thing but 8 reps. For me, that's
Yeah,
kind
wow.
of like for me it's very uncharted territory.
Mm,
I typically haven't done much of that speed. And it's really taking a lot to get used to, especially like just running fast. I find my mind just screams at me massively just because I'm not used to it. And it's a very different level of pain than like threshold running. And I'm sure we're going to talk about in the episode what it's like to run fast with you, Lachie, and Dom as well. So that's been my training, not by choice. Sally, my coach, has been putting those sessions in, which is good because I think I've lacked that pretty much my whole training.
Yeah, I can remember. I used to have to really try and convince you to do any sort of speed
I
work.
used to hate because I feel like uncomfortable doing, and I would always like because of my shoulder, I'll be like, it's just because I'm not balanced, but I never would commit to doing faster stuff, and I haven't. It really just it's taking me time to get used to it. But last Thursday, sorry, this Thursday, when I felt good about doing the faster stuff. I don't know. It's like when you get in the zone, it feels really. I've realized that there's moments there where it feels really nice to run fast. But I think not last week, the week before that, I was pacing them horribly. Like I was going out really fast and then like just falling so far backwards because I'm not used to. I don't know how to gauge that pace. And then I was speaking to my next door neighbor actually, Otto, who also runs. He's like, maybe you should just like take it a bit easy and try and finish strong. So I tried that on the. I tried that. It was nice to do that.
I feel like it's easier said than done.
And then you look back, it feels like I'm running. But I'm not running like that fast, and it hurts. It hurts, but good. I think overall training's good. I'm interested to see what I'm going to run. Sydney 10, hopefully a PB. But overall happy with where training's at. I think I'm feeling a bit. I'll stop rambling soon. Don't worry. But feeling a bit sharper, like with dropped mileage as well. Because I'm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just my legs feel better. And I always used to get really caught up. I think if you listen back to, like, I would get caught up on running sort of mileage for mileage sake, but we're focusing on faster stuff and being more specific. So it's good. I'm happy.
Cool.
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right.
So Lachie, I guess you're a pretty talented runner now. And I kind of mentioned like when you joined the squad, you were at a similar level to me, and you've since gone on to improve a lot. But how did you kind of get started in running?
So I think I was always sort of running, like in primary school and everything. You're always doing like the inter-school competitions, and it's pretty serious. I find that it's always the like classroom, schoolyard sort of seriousness of it, and that's sort of, I guess, where it started. But then once I went into high school, I was in the GPS system, which they take athletics pretty seriously in that system. And I guess I was lucky enough to have one of the teacher who was in charge of athletics at Riverview was pretty intense, and I'm sure Dom probably remembers her. She was, I think for some people kind of polarizing, but I really liked her because it meant I felt as if she got the best out of a lot of people, and it sort of made me realize that what's the point of doing running half-assed, because I don't know, I just find that you do get so much more out of it when you are able to push yourself and challenge yourself. So so I sort of was doing just school sort of running, and that's only like 3 days a week, so I thought I was taking it really seriously, but you're doing 3 sessions a week for only like 5 months of the year in the lead up to like the big inter-school carnival. And then it wasn't until I think year 11 where I went in and I decided to do state all schools. And that sort of, and in that I came second, which meant that I managed to make it into national law schools.
Wow.
And I was like, oh shit, I should really take running seriously because I enjoy it, and I've somehow managed to make nationals when I just wasn't expecting it at all. And that's how I then asked one of my mates, Charlie Doherty, who still runs as well, like who he thinks I should be coached by, and he mentioned that Ben Liddy had a squad down at Rotary, which is a grass track in near Chatswood, and I think my dad or mum contacted Ben and gave them the training that I'd done. Yeah, I remember my first session with Central Performance. I think it was 400s, and I remember Liddy said after me that he was like, you have to be the most unfit 155 runner I've ever met.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it was probably true. I had no sort of distance fitness in me, probably because the training I had been doing, and then I guess being under Liddy, it sort of made me realize that there is this whole world of running, and that I can have goals in athletics that I always sort of wanted to have, but never was able to realize that they were sort of possible. So yeah, it's like my loose story from how I started to get into taking running seriously. But yeah, and then a few years later, I'm still doing it. So
Yeah.
but no, it's going well.
What were you doing training wise before you joined the squad?
Oh, I remember because he asked me to send like what training I had done. And so I remember I just used to go up to I live sort of near some ovals, and I used to just go up to those ovals, and I think I had a running watch. I think I had a Garmin, and I just used to do 1K reps off 5 minutes rest around those ovals. It was a super generous rest. And then I think another session I would do is 1600s off 5 minutes rest probably. And so I remember, I think before state all schools, I'd done a handful of those sort of sessions and probably done 30-minute jogs here and there. And then I had a touch football competition up on the in Queensland, and so that was sort of I sort of used that also as training. And so my sessions weren't really much. They very big emphasis on the recovery side of things, but they were a lot. Surprisingly, they were a lot all the reps I was doing were quite long. I never did short reps, which are pretty typical of 800 training. So the training I was doing was pretty weird, I would say. Not your typical 800 training. But,
how did you pick the 800? How did that come about?
Well, I'm just really not that competitive in anything else, really. I was at GPS and stuff, I wouldn't win anything else, and I would only maybe get close to winning an 800. And we also had Charlie Doherty, who was in my year, who was the 1500 3K sort of dude, and so I was never going to compete with him. And then I was sort of doing 400s, but I also was quite small, and so would get beaten by the bigger guys who had developed earlier than myself. So I kind of fell into the 800. I didn't really choose it. It's sort of, I guess it chose me in a way because it was the only way I could be competitive. But yeah.
Well, it seemed to work out by the sounds of it. Well, I was sorry, Dom. I think I cut you off, but
No worries.
So, what if we can start by maybe getting a little bit of insight into your training and the structure of it now? So I guess how has it changed over time, and if you were to go through the ideal week, what would it look like?
Yeah, so we've had it's been really good because I think Liddy and I have been able to have a lot of discussions about my training, and that's the advantage of being with a coach um, who is as I guess Liddy's like relatively fresh in the coaching game. He's only been around for like 7 years, maybe um, 6, 7 years, and so he himself is constantly developing with myself, and so we've had a lot of discussions as to how to approach an 800 because in 800 running there's so many different approaches you can have because it is that event that's sort of this weird limbo that isn't quite a distance race, isn't quite a sprint. So I think we started very much with a focus on just doing a lot more faster 400 sort of training. And that worked pretty well. I did well off that philosophy. But I think we found that I had sort of hit a bit more of a ceiling pretty early with my training. I probably wasn't going to get too much faster. And maybe I still will try to get faster because you're always going to. So yeah, definitely early on we had much more emphasis on 400 speed. And then now, especially in the last 2 years, it's been very much more sort of, it's not a huge, I wouldn't say I'm an 8:15 runner at all, but I would say in my training at least, there's been a bit more of an emphasis on getting through a bit more Ks and then also having a good aerobic base, which I've never had ever. And that really helped me. Especially this season, I just felt so much stronger, even though I only did one race, but I opened my season like 2 or 3 seconds faster than I'd ever opened my season. And I think it was my third fastest time that I'd done. So yeah, taking that, having a bit more emphasis on just aerobic base was probably the big change in my training from when I first started with Liddy to now. And so a typical week, I have a Monday double, which is just like Monday morning run, like 35 minutes, and then a sprint session in the afternoon. So like 60-meter sprints, and then like 1 or 2 longer reps, like a 200 or a 150 sort of thing. And then Tuesday is a session day, which is in the off season. It's mostly longer stuff, so 6 by K or something of that nature. Wednesdays, gym and longer run, so like 50 minutes, which is for you guys probably not that long, but for me it's a while. And then Thursday's a double, Friday's off day, Saturday's session, and then Sunday long run and gym. So that's the makeup of my training, and it's about like 80 Ks a week, give or take, maybe 75. I don't really know. Yeah, 75 to 80 Ks, I would say.
With 2 gym sessions as well. And is it 3 sessions? 2
gym sessions. And I would say 3 or 4 sessions because Monday sprints are like kind of a session. And they're pretty, they're hard to get through. I always have to try and have like Ben Quinn do them with me, and like because we obviously really enjoy training with each other as well. But yeah, that's definitely Monday sprints, I would say, is I'm going to count that as a session because it's just like it's Monday and I don't know, it's a tough one to get through.
Yeah, just like mentally, if you're doing sprints, you got to be like fired up and ready to go.
I know, that's the thing. It's like, it's good to be able to just roll around and do longer stuff, but sprints is hard mentally because you have to try and G yourself up. But I think I used to be really intense about my sprints, I think, but now I've sort of relaxed a bit, and it's more just like getting into sprint rhythm and more focusing on like 400 pace, like first 200 or 400 sort of pace, as opposed to like all out sprint. So it's slightly less aggressive, but it's still probably the toughest. Well, not the toughest session to get through. It's mentally just a nagger, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
What are those 1K reps like? Those are still quite long reps. How much? Yeah. What is the overall session like in terms of rest and pacing? I'm curious about pacing, to be honest.
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to think of I honestly, because I haven't been training too much lately, so I like
Yeah.
running at least. Um, so I'm trying to think. I usually probably would start oh, around 3:10 and then finish maybe 2:55 if I'm feeling good. But
Mm,
and it's about 90. I think it's 60 to 90 seconds rest. I think we usually take
Wow.
90 seconds rest.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I think the best I've done it was actually it was the Tuesday after state 3K champs last year, so November last year, I think. And yeah, I think I started it. Liddy before the session was like, "Oh, you guys are all going to be pretty tired. Just relax into it." And then we went. I think I went 3 minutes first rep, and then I was like, "Oh no, this is going to hurt," and then managed to just stay under three. So
Wow.
um, yeah, that's where I'm at with those sessions, and they're probably the sessions that I've improved the most in since I
Mm,
started training, because I used to I don't know if you remember, Dom, but I would always take like the middle rep off on those longer sessions,
Mm.
um, because I just didn't have the strength. So yeah, those Tuesday longer sessions are definitely the ones that have improved the most, I would say, for
mm.
myself.
Yeah.
Um, but
It's
yeah, we always do
interesting.
like variations of 6 by K.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the Saturday? Was it Saturday session?
Yeah, so Saturday is Saturday mornings usually. And during the off season, we do hills a lot of the time. So it's longer hills out at North Ryde Common,
Mhm.
or Lane Cove National Park.
Oh
And
yeah.
they're pretty painful. Hills are always a grim place to be, just because there's no hiding on a hill. Like, you can't
Mm,
just take a rep easy. Like,
No.
just
Yeah.
getting up a hill is just always hard. So no matter what, you're going to be working hard. And it's also Saturday morning. Sometimes, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you're a little bit tired from the night before, or from the week you've had. So, um, yeah, it's Saturdays are always tough, and off season's always longer stuff, and then once we're in the season, that's when we start gearing up and doing 800 style sessions, which is always good fun, because it's um you're starting to get in that environment where you're hitting times, and you just, I don't know, you feel that race excitement, um
mm.
and then also the pain as well
Yeah.
isn't nice, but yeah.
Yeah, what's it like? I'm keen to get. It's funny. First, before we move on, it's funny those Dom introduced me to those hill sessions, and it's
Yeah.
very painful. And I remember distinctly New Year's Day we went there.
Went down to Lane Cove. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah,
Which one
horrendous.
did you do? Lane Cove?
Yeah.
Scribbly?
No, the big
Oh,
900-meter one.
I don't know
yeah,
how
the
I didn't
900
throw
meter
up.
hill.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah, that's
No, it's tough.
yeah, the 900 hill. I actually, I actually quite like those Lane Cove sessions, because
Mm.
it's a jog back. You get so much
Yeah.
recovery, and so
Yeah.
you can
mm,
actually work into the session really well, I find. But yeah,
Mm.
it is grim. I think Scribbly. I find Scribbly gums, which is
Scribbly's tough.
it's
Yeah.
um
So steep.
yeah, Scribbly's tougher, I would say. It's weird, because it's very deceptive, very very deceptive. You have the middle
Mm.
section, which is just seems flat, and then you have this turn that it just
It's
kicks
kind of
up and it
awkward.
goes on
Yeah.
forever. And I always get really ambitious and go too early, and then pay for it in the last like 50 meters or so. But yeah, those sessions are very tough, but good to get done. You feel good afterwards.
Definitely.
That's why we do it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I remember back in the day, you were kind of like notorious for just absolutely smashing sessions. I think there was like
Mm,
pretty much at the end of every session, it would just be like, I don't know, it was kind of like your signature to be lying on the ground for about 10
mm.
minutes while everyone else was putting their shoes on and getting ready to go home. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
What's like the hardest session you've ever done?
Um, well, I've had one session where Liddy was very close to calling an ambulance. because he thought I was gonna pass out. And for context, I'd just been over in Japan. So I I think I just made the qualifying time for World Juniors,
Oh, yeah.
and then I went over and because originally for World Juniors I was going to um, I wasn't going to do it because I was going to have a year away
That's right.
overseas, and so running wasn't really going to be a thing after school. And then made World Juniors qualifying time, and I was like, oh, I should consider this again. Anyway, so I'd been over in Japan with the family, and Liddy was probably a bit stressed about all that. Anyway, came back and sort of started smashing out sessions. And then I'd been in the cold, and then I come in back to Australia really hot,
Oh,
and I did this session where it was like, I think it was 600, 500, 400 with like 10 minutes rest and 12 minutes rest, and just trying to hit it as hard as you can pretty much. And I remember going into the final rep, so into that 400, Liddy's like G'ing me up, G'ing me up for it, which I probably don't need. I probably have enough noise in my head to G myself up. But anyway, he started saying like, do you think the other competitors are going to be easing on these reps, so you've got to go harder or something like that? So I tried to smash it out. I have no idea what time I did. It probably I'm hoping maybe a 54, 55-ish. And then for the next like 40 minutes was lying on the ground, like pretty much passed out. And then my heart rate was just through the roof. I remember seeing my watch afterwards, and it said my heart rate was 280, which I think is like you're dead.
Like one rep. 280.
Watches, watches are just always. I feel like they're gonna be out.
Yeah, you'd be dead at that point, I think.
Yeah.
That's
I
just
remember looking at it
absurd,
being like 280. Surely that's wrong, but yeah. Anyway, and then Liddy had pouring water on me, trying to cool me down, and then I remember he was like, "Okay, Lachie, we need to really cool you down. Can I put ice down your pants to cool you down?" And I was like, "Yeah, anything to cool me down." Like, at the time I hated it, but then obviously I'm still doing it, still doing the sport. But I think my habit of smashing myself, or I think I've sort of not lost it, but I've grown out of it in a way. I think in the last couple of years, I just think because I'm a lot stronger now, I don't have that big lactic sort of base work, and so I find that I haven't really been having those big blow ups and lying on the ground for 20 minutes afterwards, which I think is a good thing. It means you can sort of enjoy training a little bit more. It's less scary because you're like, oh, I'll probably survive this. And but yeah, so I think I reckon I've grown out. Touch wood. I reckon I've grown out of those big blow ups and big vomits after sessions. But the 654 is definitely the scariest session I've done.
That's fucking great. So I'm completely new to this type of train. So it's one rep, and you're just going literally bat out of hell like it's a race basically, and you're taking 10 minutes rest, and then and you're doing 3 of them, and you're basically just killing yourself on the rep. Is that what it is?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're trying to stay, I guess, as relaxed. I guess you're just going 800 pace, which is just relaxed sprinting in a way. So, they are weird because you're not doing that much distance at all, but you're smashing yourself and you're still cooked afterwards. So it is weird. And they're definitely a super painful session, really, those 800 stuff. But we only do them once every couple of weeks in season, so we don't do them too often. But definitely very different to like even a 1500 sort of stuff. It's super different. Like 1500, you have so many more reps. It's obviously a bit more relaxed, but it's also a much different. I find it's a much different pain because you feel for a 1500 session, I start to feel it super early on, but it's sort of that pace where you can just surprise
Push
yourself
through.
and
Yeah.
endure it a little bit. Whereas 800, you hit a wall pretty hard. And then you're pretty screwed.
What? So what's it? I don't know because I've never run that in that sort of zone. What's it like? Sort of running those reps. Does it hit you after? Or is it like just pain throughout the whole rep as well?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, I reckon it probably hits me the most afterwards. I used to have the habit of finish the rep lie on the ground, and that only just makes it so much worse. And so during the rep, I don't think it's too bad. It's mostly afterwards where your heart rate's just still climbing and probably peaks like I would say a couple of minutes afterwards. Your lactic's probably peaking a couple of minutes after you finish as well. So
Wow.
yeah, I think I'm very naive in the sense that I kind of forget what the pain is like during a rep and also forget what it's like afterwards. And I think maybe it's like a coping mechanism of trying to get through that sort of training. But in all honesty, I reckon it probably peaks afterwards, and then you just have to ride it out a little bit and kind of hope that, I don't know, you have to just stay calm within yourself. I mean, I'm making it sound very dramatic, but sometimes I've definitely been in those moments where your heart rate is just so high and you're just like, I just need to relax and know that my heart rate will come down and that I can just walk this off, maybe.
It's crazy when you're in the moment. Well, I can't really say I've experienced that, but just like from doing harder sessions, it's like you're just being screamed at by that voice in your head, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But then like it calms down. It can't and then there's time to sort of, it's weird. It's a weird feeling.
It is. Yeah. I often get it, I reckon 2/3 of the way into a session, maybe even just as you're about to start the session, it's like, what am I doing here? And then 2/3 you have the same sort of thing, and then you get to like the last rep, maybe, if you're doing, I'm just thinking of like a 12 by 200 sort of session. That's what I have in my head, where you get to rep 9 and you're like, oh my god, I've so much to go, and then you get 11 and 12 and you're like, oh, okay, I can actually do this. And then you have that aftermath as well, where you question yourself. But I find that after that, it's very invigorating, and then you come back.
Yeah, you feel good. It's crazy. Do you feel like you feel accomplished after you do something so difficult as well?
Yeah. It is very validating. I find that, especially after those big heavy ones where you doubt yourself the most. You do, and then you surprise yourself. It's very. I find it's very difficult to get that sort of feeling in anything else that I do. It's probably why I keep coming back. One of the reasons why.
Yeah. What Dom, what's your experience with those kind of sessions? Because you were doing, I imagine you were doing similar training at one point, being in the squad.
Yeah, I can remember it was like almost every session, it just felt like you were going to war, kind of. Like you'd be rocking up, like absolutely dreading it, and knowing that it's just going to be an absolute punish to get through. And yeah, it feels good to get through it, but like I can remember even all the way until you go to bed, like after the session, you're still just like a bit hazy and kind of I don't know, you can't really even think straight for the rest of the night. Like it just takes such a toll on you. I think it's a completely different sport to like endurance running or even like sprinting. It's like just in a class of its own, middle distance running. But I think that it does help with all the rest of your running. And I think it's overlooked by a lot of other people who are training for, I don't know, a 5K or a 10K. Like you definitely need to be doing this kind of stuff as well.
So I guess we have two very experienced gentlemen at enduring these kind of sessions. So if you were to get, I'm curious, like people getting into running, one common theme is they don't know how to gauge how painful some sessions are. So is there any sort of mental things you go through, Lachie, or any advice you give? Because it's a real gradual process of trying to get your brain to understand you're not going to die. That's what Sally's tells me. You got to teach your brain you're
Yeah.
not going to die when you're running fast, basically.
Yeah, I think I guess it's something that I've learned over time because I've been running and doing those tough sessions, I guess, for quite a while. And I I think you just find a way of sort of or or placing your mind elsewhere in a way. Um, I think it's that weird balance of trying to be present and know what you're trying to do, but then also being very vagued out in a way and just letting it happen and trying to let your body take over. And so I find that it is this very I don't know, a very beautiful almost interaction between your mind and body with trying to comprehend what is happening but also just allowing your mind to shut off and letting your body just take over.
Yep.
Yeah, and because everyone always has those doubts while running and doing any sport or where you are enduring something for an extended period of time. It, it's just teaching your mind how to let your body take over. I think that's what I've tried to do, and I'm not very good at it, but I think it's just recognizing that your body can do it, and your mind should just shut up for a bit.
Do you find you have to convince yourself that you can do it? Like, even I find that at least, even though I've been running for about 3 years, I still, before a hard session or something, like I have to convince myself, like, you've done this before, it's not going to be that bad. Do you still get that over time, even after all the...
Um, I think that sort of thinking is probably chilled out a little bit, but I also do hate to say it. I think it's always going to be there, and that is the battle that every runner is going to have is that tension between, oh, can I still do this, or can I do it as well as I want to or need to? And so I find that is still a battle with myself, and sometimes you surprise yourself, and a lot of the time for me, I'll just blow up and I'll be really down. But I think it's important to contextualize your training in the broader scheme of your training. So contextualize your session within the broader context of your training, and understand that you may not have done a session well, or you may not be doing a session well, but it doesn't actually matter as if you're doing everything else around that. So that sort of, I think a big thing that I've tried to understand is, you should have emphasis on every session and try and do it as best as you can. But each session, each run has a purpose within the way your training is designed. And so I think it's just recognizing that is helps me, I guess.
Get your head around it.
Yeah.
I think that Liddy was really good at kind of prompting you at the right times. Like if you'd had a terrible session, he'd remind you like it's just one session, and you're still going to get benefits from it. But obviously, don't go and do that every time. But I think that it's a funny sport because it's so measurable. Like you want to hit this time, and you see that you're, I don't know, ahead or behind, and that's where you are. So it's easy for your mind to just kind of click in and say, shit, I'm going too fast, or shit, I'm going too slow. And I think it's like what you said, it was put it really, really well. Like it's just that your mind and ego kind of trying to balance it out with what your body's doing. Yeah, I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, good. Keep that ego in check. I think I get that a lot.
We all
training with guys. You're like, oh, I suck. But yeah, I think so just to go off what you're saying as well, having Liddy, our coach, he's probably one of the most motivating people ever. Like, while I was just starting my injury, he was so insanely motivating with with where I was at, and like saying just tick off the boxes of the bike, and then as soon as we get back, we'll be able to smash this out still. And I think also just when you do have a bad race or a bad session, and because I think every runner is intensely emotional because they've got to have that motivation and drive. And I feel like for a lot of people, it comes from emotions. So just to have that person to motivate you, it's actually, it is incredible how much it does help. And especially after like a bad session or race, you're like, oh, I'll keep going, I guess. Get back on the horse.
Yeah, you have to. I imagine it would be great to have sort of, so you don't stay in your own head and you're bouncing ideas off someone. Otherwise, you don't want to spiral. It's easy to spiral downwards if you're not careful. I can imagine.
So Lydia's very good at that as well. So just keep talking about him, but
I've heard so many good things about Liddy.
Oh, he's so good. Such a champion.
He's good. But he's very good at stressing about your training. So I find that I just don't have to think about it at all. He's like, oh, I think we should do this session. I think we should do that. Or maybe we should do this. And you're like, I'll just do whatever because you're the one who knows how. And now I think I've lately become a little bit better with being like, oh, I think I should do this. But he is always thinking about how you can optimize your training and what is going to be the best in achieving your goals in your event.
How big is the squad?
I reckon there's probably, I think there's like 20 or 20 people. I would say 20.
Okay.
I mean 20 odd. And there's a lot of new younger people who are really good, killing it. They did the juniors and stuff. We've got and they're doing pretty well. And then there's also still a few of the 800 guys going around. We got Jai Parrott, who came third at nationals this year. And I think everyone knows how much talent he has. He's a hugely talented guy. And he's just had a huge run of injuries. And I think if he's able to have an off season, which I think he's only ever had like one off season, then he's going to do some pretty insane stuff, I think. And he's going over to Europe soon, so I'm excited to see that. That'd be good. And then obviously Mason Cohen as well, who's probably like, he's definitely he's probably the big dog of our squad. And he'll love me saying that. And there's still a lot of people going around, and it's very good squad.
Definitely. I guess there's the running component and the training component, but then there's also all the other things that contribute to running well, like nutrition or gym sessions and all the 1%s like foam rolling, stretching. What is your nutrition like, and do you pay much attention to your diet, or have you ever kind of looked into that too much to improve your training? Or
I think, I don't think I've ever had a bad diet. In all honesty, I haven't looked that deeply into my diet for running. I mainly just have the vague idea of what I should and shouldn't eat when I should and shouldn't eat.
Yeah.
But I think a big thing that's helped me is I actually have gotten into the protein shake grind, which I was pretty opposed to. I think probably, I don't know why, I was just opposed to it, probably because I thought it was just for gym bros.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, no, I honestly think that's helped a lot with recovery. I just straight up, like, once I've finished my warm down jog, I'll have a protein shake, and a water approved one. So I'm on the, I think,
Oh, yeah.
Science in Sport recovery
Oh, yeah.
one, Rego Recov, I think it's called. I don't know. So I think I've sort of introduced that. I think Ben Quinn started doing it, and I was like, I just copied him. And I reckon it's helped a lot in terms of being able to recover, especially going from Tuesday, because we train afternoons on Tuesday, Thursday. So going from Tuesday afternoon session when you're pretty wrecked, and then I have gym Wednesday morning at like 8. So it's like going from that session to the gym is like very very vital for recovery. And then outside of that, I'll try to eat kind of whatever I want, really, without being an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like people generally have a decent idea. There's a lot of education out there about what you should and shouldn't eat, and I think people have a decent idea as to what's good. But I've never really, in all honesty, haven't. Maybe that's something I can improve. Is
very
diet stuff.
I think it's very individualistic and complex, and like you said, there's everyone knows roughly what a healthy diet looks like. So yeah, you kind of know what's working for you and what isn't, even just by I don't know, experience.
For sure.
What are the what do those strength sessions look like, just overall?
So mine it usually starts off, it's sort of in like 4 parts. I have so I'm still with Sydney Uni, so I get my programs done by Shane Ball, who works out of Sydney Uni, and sorry. And he he's been doing my programming for like a few years now, so it's been really good. And we sort of had so all my warm-up stuff is prehab or rehab stuff if I've got any niggles or any general weaknesses, which is usually I do. So I'm always that prehab lift is pretty long and extensive. So that takes a while, and then I go into like a main lift, which is usually squatting or deadlifts or power cleans. They're sort of my 3 main lifts that I'll do, and I'll do either one of those. I won't do them at once. And then go into like a secondary lift, so like Bulgarians or I don't know, split squats. Yeah, Bulgarian split squats, or I can't really I haven't done too much lately. And then finish off with sort of upper body sort of stuff as well. So gym sessions I actually don't mind them too much. A lot of people say they suck, which being a runner, you probably like to do a lot more movement stuff, but I find it is kind of cool being like, I lifted that much, and you can surprise yourself. And I've found that once I've tried to track my gym training a little bit more with weights and understanding what I'm actually doing in the gym, I've been able to enjoy it a lot more. So I think it's super vital as well with training, especially for an 800. You need that power. Like I don't think you can get away with not having that power. And I used to not do any gym stuff. So I didn't do any gym stuff while I was I did a little bit at school, and then for like a year after school, didn't do any gym. So I've like slowly introduced it, and lately I haven't really been in the gym because I've been injured, and so it is hard to motivate myself to get into the gym because it's not just at home, but yeah, no, it's definitely super vital for training.
Yeah. Actually, can we talk about the race itself, like 800-meter race? What is it? What is it like? What is it like to run 800 meters all out, and sort of
that's a good one.
what's the pace? Is there like a specific pacing strategy as well?
Yeah, there is a pacing strategy. So generally speaking, people like to go. I think if you look at pretty much a lot of the fastest races and a lot of people's PBs, with the asterisks, people have. I think it's like 2 seconds difference between the first and second 400. So you go like, if you're going a 146, then you want to go through in 52 flat and then 54. So generally speaking, yeah, that's what the pacing looks like. You want to positive split. Is it positive split? I think, yeah, positive split. Yeah. So you want a 2 seconds difference between the first and second 400, and yeah, I don't think I've really ever been good at that. I don't think I would have done too many PVs that are with only a 2 second difference. I'm like a 51, go out hard and then blow up, sort of like hold on and blow up. So yeah, it's the way I've done my PBs, I think, is like blowing up after a really fast 4. But yeah, the goal is to try and get like 2 seconds difference.
Yeah, and the 2 seconds is so you don't, like, this idea is not to blow up, because you're probably not going to run it, like you're not going to negative split an 800 for the most part.
Yeah, well, you do see people do negative split, but yeah, I think the idea is that it's really hard to then pick up your speed and gain momentum while you're in the second lap, because you are starting to fatigue, and so yeah, it's just really hard to change your speed. I think it's probably easier to just let your body fatigue and still try to push and hold on, as opposed to push and get faster.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if that had made any sort of sense.
But,
no. I think that's the general thinking, is that it's harder to gain momentum throughout a race.
Yeah. What's it like in the last? I've always wondered what it's like in the last 200. What it feels like to just, like, I imagine just fighting every.
Yeah, it's well, the last 800 I did was, I think, in January, and that was with we had a pacer, and I was hurting way too early. I think 300 to go. I was really questioning how I was going to be able to do it. I was trying to relax, but yeah, I think I start to feel it sort of, if it's a really fast 800, I do start to feel it pretty early. But yeah, the final 200 it feels like the whole race is the last 200. It just mentally, and the way it feels like that last 200 goes for so much longer than any other, which it does generally. But it just feels so much like it just takes forever. So yeah, you're just trying to. I think the big thing that I learned with Liddy is that he's always saying that always with 100 to go, that's when you kick, like 100 to go, don't go any earlier, because being able to hold on from like 200 meters is very, very difficult, especially if it's a fast race. But always have something 100 meters to go, and that's when you should be really like pushing. That's when you really get into it. But yeah, the last 200 takes forever.
Yeah.
It's just a pain. That's when it's peaking.
Sounds very, very intense. Dom, what's your 800 racing experience like? How would you sum it up?
Yeah, I think by the final 200, usually I was just like absolutely fried, and like your whole coordination and everything is just like starting to become impaired. Like it's it feels so different to just running normally. I can remember, half the time like your vision's starting to go a bit blurry and like I don't know, it's just like you're just running on will to get to the finish line pretty much. Like, it can be pretty tough the last 200 meters. And it's like it's a tough event because it's only like I don't know less than 2 minutes that you're running it for. So I think it can be hard to get the race right because I don't know you spend a year training for this race and it only lasts for 2 minutes. Like it's important to have a couple of cracks at it and make sure that you give yourself an opportunity to get it right within the season. I don't think you can just train for one 800 race like you could for a marathon or other race distances where it's not as, I don't know, like fickle in how the race plays out.
Yeah, interesting. If I'm unhappy doing minute 45 reps, I don't know how I'd go at 800 training, that's for sure. But
it sounds like the stuff you're doing is pretty hard still. Eh?
Don't know. Other thing we wanted to chat about was what it was like to represent Australia.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that was obviously a very incredible, very surreal experience. I'd sort of that goal. I remember being in the boarding house because I boarded for the last 2 years of school.
Yeah.
And I remember receiving a call from Liddy, and he was like, the standards for World Juniors are out, and they've changed it from 149.5 to 150 for the 800. And I was like, oh shit, that's like kind of doable now. And so I remember getting off the phone and being like, oh crap, I've got this goal now. And because I didn't even know what World Juniors was. I was very, very oblivious to the running world in that stage. And and then I managed to run 149.98, so get it by 0.02. And then and that was before, I think that was before schoolies. Yeah, that was just after HSC, before schoolies. Anyway, and then from that, the big goal was to try and get automatically selected because, well, it's automatic, and and so in order to do that, I had to win nationals, and then so managed to win nationals, which was it's still obviously like a super awesome feeling thinking about it, and then it was just the build up to get back into and realizing that you are going to be representing Australia. It's pretty it's a pretty cool thing and unique thing to think about. And I think initially I was really overwhelmed because I was so fresh in the sport. I sort of felt like I was I just felt like I was a phony, like in all honesty, that I had fluked my way into representing Australia. And so I remember when we first ran in Germany, because you go away with the junior team, and I first ran in Germany in Mannheim, and I put on the Oz kit, and I was like, oh fuck, I don't feel like maybe I shouldn't be here, but then you slowly start to realize, like, oh, I've worked freaking hard for this. This has been a goal. Like, I've got some talent that I should be able to work through. And but I think when I think about how I went at World Juniors, I remember I was just so upset with how I went. I couldn't.
Really?
I didn't watch my race until like months afterwards. I was in the library at uni, and I like started tearing up watching it. I was like, oh my god.
Fuck.
But yeah, it was. I think I tried to play it off like, oh, it was fine. I was happy with it, but no, I was really annoyed. But I think, and it probably came down to I was maybe still a little bit overwhelmed. I hadn't been in the sport long. I didn't have that much I was reasonably confident and like super aggressive in the race, and I did everything that I thought I could to make it to semis. Um, but yeah, I think the biggest thing about like representing the country, it was like being able to have like my family and friends all there. It was just so incredible because we had just started our gap years, and so well I'd started uni, so I didn't have a gap year, but my friends were all over in Europe. So I had like 10 mates who all came over to watch, and you're also in that team environment, and it was like the first time because I'd always done competitive sport at school. I'd always done like touch footy at a reasonable competitive level. But this is the first time where this is everyone's big goal. Like playing touch, you had guys who were like playing for Australia, and so the teams that I was in, they didn't really give that much. They didn't. Well, like, they cared a lot, but like it's not like the didn't feel like the peak. I don't know. So being in that environment, you're like everyone's pretty super pumped to be there, and so it's a very, very uplifting environment to be in. And yeah, I think we had a really awesome team. I remember it was just a lot of really nice people. But no, the big thing for me was being able to share the experience with friends and family. Like it makes you want to get back to that level, and it's something that's been driving me for the last like 5 years, and still got to wait a little bit longer to try and get there. So it's been a somewhat frustrating process, but to try and get onto a senior team. But hopefully in the next couple of years we'll see if I can. I have to run a lot faster though, so
yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, it looked like you opened the season pretty well this season, but just didn't quite play out.
Yeah. It was. I think it was just one of those things. Like I just had to accept that like my time is not now. It's opposite to that. I don't know what's that song? Is it The Time Is Now? I think it's one of the
John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena. We want that as our theme song.
Oh really? Got to get the copyright for that.
Yeah.
But, my time is not now. So I'll have to wait a little bit longer. But yeah, definitely that's I guess besides enjoying being in the squad and training with the guys that I do train with, the huge motivator for me is being able to share those experiences with families, friends, and like the people that you're able to meet on those teams. It's pretty incredible. So yeah.
And speaking of Australian teams, I think I've seen that you're about to represent Australia in another sport. I think you're on the Finska Australian team. What's the story behind
that? So many people don't think it's legit. Have you heard the game Finska?
No.
Finska, it's massive.
It's
really taken off.
It's sort of like your barbecue game, your classic barbecue game where you like, or like your park game where you have like a wooden block and then you chuck the wooden block at numbered blocks on the ground, and then you sort of have to get your way up to 50 anyway. So yeah, my friend found out about the World Championships about it back in like October last year and was like, dude, we got to do this. and then so we just signed up to represent Australia in the Finska World Championship. And so we're going over to France. So I'll be in Europe in August.
Wow.
Because the World Championships are in the French Alps, which is very nice.
Oh my god!
So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So yeah, it's pretty hilarious. But yeah, we've already met. So our coach is he's a previous runner-up in the World Championship. So he's pretty freaking legit, and he's coaching us, and he's also competing. But yeah, it's gonna represent Australia again, which is awesome. It's a privilege. But this one's
awesome.
Slightly less. Yeah, just gotta sign up. So I won't be sharing the sign up link to anyone just in case they steal our Australian glory. But Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
good.
And what's next running wise? I know once you get back, are there any plans
Yeah.
to step up the
I
distance or?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I've got, I don't want to go into the 1500. The depth in the 1500 in Australia at
Oh
the moment
yeah,
is too good
true.
to want to step up to it. I don't see any need. Um, but yeah, no. So my big goal this year was uni games and Commonwealth games, but obviously I haven't been able to do either of those. But I don't know. I guess main goal is just to keep improving. Like if I have the goal of, um, I think I'd get too frustrated or too flustered if I had the goal of like I've got to make this team or I've got to do this. It's like no, like, I have to be able to tick the boxes and so yeah, I think my next goal I really want to be able to get down to the 146s. We were pretty convinced that my next race was going to be a 146 sort of race, but yeah, so it obviously wasn't because didn't have a next race, but yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting things in the next couple of years with athletics. You've got world champs next year, and then you've got leading into the Olympics, so which is everyone's big goal. And then obviously you got the Commonwealth Games again that are in Victoria that have just got announced to be in Victoria in 2026. So yeah, I think if I'm able to be healthy and have extended time on the track and extended time training, then I think I am definitely in with a shot to achieve those goals. But like if not, then it doesn't happen. But yeah. So yeah,
Awesome.
they're my goals. Yeah.
And
Pretty vague.
go ahead, Smitty.
Dom?
Oh, I was going to start wrapping up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We normally end the episode with a question around a specific race. So, what is what's your favorite race? It doesn't have to be like your best race. It's like what's your favorite race and sort of why?
Like like a race that I have done. One of my favorite. Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, any race.
I'm trying. Oh, there's a few because it's like I'm trying to think of which one sort of meant the most. I guess winning nationals in 2018 under 20s that probably meant the most to me. Maybe I don't know. They all sort of all equal.
What else would there be?
I think I know. Well, because then there's like stuff where it's like winning GPS that got me into starting doing athletics seriously.
That's
but I don't know. I guess I'd have to say winning nationals. It's not every day you get to call yourself a national champion. So, yeah, I kind of have to say that. I guess.
Yeah. Did you?
There's nothing really that I've done that's bettered that.
Did you run the qualifying time for the under 20s when you won, or
No,
did that
it
happen
was like
after?
a slower race. No, so
Yeah.
I had done it before. I'd done it in November. Oh no, I think I'd done it in November the previous year. So 2017, straight after HSC. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks after HSC. I ran 9.8, and then I went over to, and then I said to Liddy that I was gonna stay and try to make World Juniors because I was gonna do the gap year, and then went 9.6 in February at the Commonwealth Games trials, and then went 149.59 at just like a invitational or like a what were those races? Anyway, just one of the New South Wales invitational meets.
Track classics or the invitational ones where it's
classics.
just like people going away and stuff like that. Yeah.
So then
Awesome.
so that was that, and then I had nationals like 2 weeks after that. But so automatic selection after that. So I guess I have to say that race.
Very big. Well, we've talked about a lot in this episode.
Yeah.
We've gotten a very good insight into what it's like to be an 800-meter runner. Specifically, you're very philosophical with your training as well, which has been cool. Which has been cool to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've just got time to think. Well, it is.
I certainly won't be going down to that distance, but it sounds too intense for me. But it's crazy, and what you've achieved so far is incredibly impressive. So yeah,
Thank you.
and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been awesome.
Yeah, very honoured to be on the podcast. So yeah, thank you very much for inviting me on.